Most High. The Most High. Oh, why do we have to say Most High? Because there are people that have other gods and things, and one is the Most High, and actually one is the only one. And it's hard for people because they like to think in terms of multiplicity. We are multiple creatures, so we think of multiple gods. Multiple interests. Competition among people is you know what I mean? Boy, I'm going to beat you, and you're going to beat me. We're going to beat. We're going to win. I can only win by beating you when you are just me and I am you. In the end of the end of the end, right? Or in the beginning. Top of the morning. Today is not a heavy pot. Today is a love pod, baby. That's right. Pure love. We got to go beyond the guru. We must up the monkey mind. No, I must shut you up. I don't need no. If you see the guru, here was the statement we had when we used to go to the ashram. If you see the guru, kill him. Oh, there he is. Never mind. So, the good news is that what I've been trying to do today, and I know I'm good jumping around, I've been trying to, ask the question you're asking, which is, where is this going? This, I can't say it's a political fight. It's an existential fight in North America and I suppose in the EU and other countries. It's an existential fight between, the age-old people that want to be free versus the people that want to be enslaved, which are the people that want to be enslaved would be the people complaining about Doge and tariffs, or they're just walking around in circles. I found out that a lot of the people that went to Washington, D.C. were flown there, no charge, from as far away as Portland, Oregon. And so it wasn't a real rally. A lot of it was imported. And even if it were a real rally, they just have an existential complaint. It's we must get down to the fundamental driver of these people. What is it exactly? And it's that this need, this need to this grievance that's within them. And I think, I hate to bring up Arthur Janoff as being any kind of visionary. I think he tried to be, and tried to kind of blame a lot of the trauma people have on birth. But here's a guy that's refusing to believe that people abuse each other. that may be a trauma, but all these people have some kind of inner need to not just to march, but to war against something external. But even if they have nothing external to war against, it's something internal that's driving them, and it's a suffering. It also is a form of community. A lot of these people don't have a social community. Many are senior citizens, and they're upset right now because Gen Z is not really as prevalent as they would like. Where are the kids? The kids are usually at the forefront. Well, they're getting, people are beginning to wake up to the idea that if you back the oligarchs, which the marchers are doing, I can't call them left or right. They're just a certain kind of person that needs to, complain. And I've met them before. These are the people that, there's one guy, this is a typical, one guy that was on the set of Girl Next. I think he was the scripty. He he was, and I believe we paid him. You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure we paid him, but he thought he wasn't really paid. So instead of, broaching the subject with us, he went to the Texas Workforce Commission and filed a long complaint about how we owed him $250. Now, folks, that versus a phone call, and it's just this need to to march to have some issue. That's good. There's also the bottom line of, well, the country shouldn't have been founded. Well, white people are inherently racist, so we got to mark that, we got to find some kind of cause. But this need is within, and it's spread across a number of people. And to the extent that the people outweigh, if they're the majority, these people, and really it seems like a genetic thing, because I have tried for years to use any kind of reason I could. At first I thought, well, it's political. It's like left versus right. Okay, well, here are my reasons for being a libertarian, mainly fiscal reasons, but I'm socially liberal in the sense that I let people be people. I don't have don't feel I need to Bible thump people if they're engaged in sin, or if I think, well, your sin's worse than mine, I'm going to thump you or something like that. So I'm not really involved in that end of it, except that they try to push me into it by having white skin, creating a racist narrative where there isn't one. I mean, there really isn't one, not in this country, because this country has worked out its racial problems, and there's still communication issues between races, which is rapidly being eradicated by communication on social media and more intermarriages between different groups and colors, which is a natural, like if you look at a commercial, you look at they want to keep this DEI thing going. There's already diversity, and everywhere I look, I'm seeing, I'm looking at a commercial on TV here. We've got, black people, white people, we've got people of Asian descent, and we've got old and young, because old people were disrespected. So it's kind of in a sense, I don't think you can end it. I think if they want a race war, they can probably gin it up, but it's very difficult now to have a race war compared to the way it was 100 years ago, right? And that's because of communication. When you communicate with somebody, like say a Chinese person, you may have all these ideas about Chinese, and you may be prejudiced against Chinese. Then after you have a friend that's Chinese, say on Facebook, or you message them, or you visit each other, you have coffee, whatever, you just thrown together by circumstances in a rapid world where everybody talks to everybody. And it's strange that a lot of those preconceptions fall away, and then you see the humanity of the person, and you realize that well, there's a great deal of prejudice on the side of all people that are afraid of usually it's fear of the other. There's oh, they won't like me, or oh, they won't accept me. And it's true, there are groups that won't accept you. If you're old and you want to be around young people, they won't accept you. If you're young and you want to be around old people, they may not accept you. But in terms of communication within boundaries that used to be, those boundaries are pretty much, if they're not gone, they're going. And people talk about white supremacy or white privilege, and what they're talking about is the dominant people of America were white at one time, so that's where the privilege comes from. And then old stereotypes of black people and Asian people, Hispanic people, or whatever, are keeping people back from opportunity, and therefore we need to attack the ones with white privilege. And what I say to that is, that's a matter of education. That's a matter of communication. And it should be very much encouraged that people should talk to each other, regardless of their background. We're humans. We have that in common. We are the human race. We need to talk to each other. And the more we talk to each other, the more we communicate with each other, the more the fears go away. And the kind of these fears are sometimes superstitious, and they're just really not based on anything logical. And sometimes they're prejudicial, like, oh God, there's a bunch of black guys. I hope they don't, maybe they're going to try to rob me or something. And you get those kind of thoughts. But a lot of that is programming from the news. The news is losing its credibility. So I imagine that kind of programming they like to do, divide the races, make it that, black people are violent and they'll get you. And so a white person walking down the street will cross the street to avoid walking through, now, if you take prison, you have gangs, you got the Aryan Brotherhood, you got Black Panthers, you got different black groups, and you got the Mexican mafia, which is very powerful in this area anyway. And these groups all stick together. And if anyone tries to get out of a group and go commiserate with others, they get a beat down. So they keep the division going. Now, that's a situation I would call that extreme racism. And, but is that for the survival of the group? Is that based on fear? Or is that being socially engineered? If people stay divided between the ABs and the Mexican Mafia and the various black groups, isn't that an easier way to control that population of people? And so therefore, there's your answer. We complicate it, and so my point is that in dealing with the marches and the, anti-tariff or the whatever, it doesn't even matter what it is, the anti-oligarchy by Bernie Sanders and AOC. And you'd have to be rather dumb to follow that kind of stuff. I mean, you have to be you have to have the ability to not be able to you have to not be able to reason. First of all, is that right? I'm going to keep talking over here. That's right. So no, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. Okay. What a good boy. Okay. So I see that the wind is kind of out of the sails of a lot of these marches that they try to make it racial. And then the big thing now, no, you're going to let me finish. Come on. No barking. Shh. You know what that means? Shh. What does that mean? No, that doesn't mean bark. No, you stop now. Good boy. Okay, come on. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that, in a sense, we're much better off having. I told you this was going to be if you want the deep, dark, twisted underneath the things, today is not the day. Today's the love day. So here's the thing. So I would say that societies on Earth have progressed quite a bit in communication. We also have class communication, rich versus poor, haves versus have-nots, pretty versus ugly, blah, 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 and all this other, all these other divisions, which obviously cannot be worked out right now completely. The human condition cannot be solved, but the human condition is, what I'm amazed at, I guess, is the lack of, the response being a Cold War, pre-nuclear response, like you're going to get the bomb or some other bomb, whatever, the World War. So the war is going on asymmetrically with, quote, the terrorists doing, blowing stuff up or getting people SWAT teamed or whatever, if they have the wrong political view. And that's called terrorism. And, there's law enforcement groups that are like gangs that are involved in those kind of SWATs. So that's a matter of, police work and everything else. But I would say as a society where we are right now, the precipice um, of some common sense changes to our society, if the board is not overturned with a world war, if there isn't some kind of natural disaster, if there's not some kind of interrupter, then I would say that the people here in this country who are, working for their retirement, working for, trying to find where they fit in and what they can do. The environment today is better than it's ever been in my lifetime. And I know I've said it's the worst it's been, but that's when I'm thinking about the specter of war, how close we are to a nuclear war at the same time. But in terms of opportunity, which we haven't talked about, I believe there's more opportunities now. In fact, we will be having to step up immigration and skilled labor into the United States, along with these new factories and new opportunities. And that will be a very busy time. That will be a redoing of laws, and that will be an amazing boost to get educated people involved. And educated doesn't necessarily mean college. Educated is being a master welder. Educated is being able to build a house. Educate, you know what I mean? Just having a skill set. Educated is being able to build a road. Educated is being able to draw a city plan or whatever. Any of those things is will be highly revered as America is on the precipice of a real new dawn. It's really a new thing, and it's not based on the old paradigm. It really is a new, I won't say a new age necessarily, but a golden age. I won't necessarily. That's not really my words. I don't really, a gilded age kind of is a cliche. I would just say it's a new paradigm, but it's a global paradigm. It's a frequency shift, universal wide. And what it means is, well, for example, the future is going to need 1,000,000 times the energy that we consume right now to be able to pull off a lot of the things that are going on, including quantum travel and space travel, Mars, whatever else is going to go on. But there's also quantum travel. They say, well, and I think eventually some of these mysteries that have been uncovered will be uncovered again, but they won't seem so mysterious. Like, for example, what I found to be very interesting was a 250 million year old computer chip, 250 million years old, from another civilization. I don't know which one. I've seen the chip. Artifacts on the moon, Tartaria, Antarctica. What the occult really is dealing with when the occult is blended with science and quantum mechanics and quantum physics. What exactly are we talking about? Where are we trying to go? And so I was asking Trish, I was saying, given this state of discord, this kind of clash of an old, I see the marchers as being part of the old paradigm that's going bye-bye. And I see the new being this, and I hate to say something like the Golden Dawn, because that's a secret society of Satanists, but I have to say it is I would not be surprised that the advancement of technology is something that is completely unpredictable. And is it anti-human or not? Well, we need to go through it to find out. We're not going to be able to speculate, oh, it's anti-human, stop all progress, let's go back to living in caves. Are you ready? No. So the energy needed is going to be so massive that and we're talking about energizing the atmosphere. We're talking about, Tesla energy. We're talking about, time travel. We're talking about things like, a lot of these things that were relegated to the occult becoming scientific, or things that are mechanical, things that can be understood. We're talking about, solving the riddle of, I keep going back to those nights where we had the drones and some of the plasma orbs. And, when I point my camera at a star, doesn't matter what star, say Polaris, the North Star. Was that the North Star? Well, I point my camera at it, and it looks identical to the orbs that are flying around at low altitude. And these don't look like drones to me, but living creatures. And a lot of these things, we're right on the verge of remembering, and remembering as humanity. And we're also going to be solving the riddle of death. Death does not occur. Death removes the body from the situation that we're in, but death does not remove the person. And that's an important thing to understand, that life goes on and there are consequences to how we live. And this is why I tell people, I say, find, if you find a religion without consequences, that's fine, you can follow. But I know what the truth is. The truth is, God is not mocked. One of my favorite scriptures in the whole Bible. What we sow, so shall we reap. And it looks like it's not just like God's, well, I will give you, humanity, some secrets. It's the insects, it's the birds, it's the people, it's the babies, it's the old women, it's the nature of nature. All of a sudden, it doesn't look the same. Green is not green anymore. The sun going down is not the red sun into the sea anymore. There's these spectral, dimensional views of things that get into the depth of a thing, of the sun, of the stars, of a person. And so thus the capability, for example, to love a person, right? Don't you find that when you feel like you understand the depths of a person, you see the I guess we say we see the soul of a person, the soul of a loved one. We feel like we have that depth and that understanding and that connection, right? So this will become the most important thing, not hooking up at the local bar, because that, I mean, I'm not even saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying that the base behavior that we have seen, based on low frequencies, will just disappear in this next, well, I would say, I won't be here, but just watch the next 30 years, will disappear. And human will find that as the layers are uncovered, you look in the mirror and you don't see the same human anymore. A surface skin over the body of organs and bone and muscles. And rather you see the intricacy of it all. And it sets us back, and we marvel about God and about Creator and about all the systems of creation having a uniformity, and getting in sync with that uniformity, and remembering it seems like something I remember, as opposed to the base, you did something I didn't like, I'm going to go shoot you. There's Susie Rotten Crotch down the street, I'm going to go fuck her, or whatever. This base thing, I don't like the day I had, so I'm going to get drunk. It becomes so multitudinous, the things going on and all the events and all the things to consider. And as our status goes up in terms of consciousness and in terms of created being, we, I won't call it evolution, but we step into a higher dimensional level of being and that has to do with our body and our mind and everything about us and everything about everything physical. Until finally, there's a blur between physical and between the visible and invisible worlds. Nothing is invisible anymore, or if you like, nothing is two-dimensionally visible anymore. Everything has a depth, has a color, has a spectral range. So it's no longer one color. It's all the colors from a perspective of one color. And and all this is good because this means that man in general is in that frequency is a happy being, is an engaged, busy, happy being. And as we head further up the ladder, or if you will, into this, the real reality, the real sort of base of all realities, what we find is that, there really is no death. There is no elimination of things. And at the same time, there's only one thing, and there is no division. So all are connected through the one thing. There is no eternal damnation. If that implies separation, then it would not be possible, because God is connected to everything. In Isaiah 45, God talks about creating evil and good, both. And everything we experience here is not to be taken seriously, but it's a configuration that we're going through for the purpose, God says, of building character, preparation for what's next. And so what we'll see in the meantime, very early on, because don't you keep thinking, yeah, but something's going to interrupt this tariff thing. Maybe China is going to start launching nukes on Taiwan. Something's going to happen to throw a wrench in it all. But if it doesn't, and we have a beachhead here, then it will build from there, and it will then go off into not just space, but spaces. Oh, what if the Earth is surrounded by water, and we just have a firmament? What's the problem? You can breathe underwater. What's water and air are the same thing in those states. So what's the question? Whether it's water, whether it's air, whether it's atmosphere, whether it's a vacuum, it really doesn't matter. It will still be accessible. And that accessibility and that adventure of venturing out beyond, the crib, beyond the single three-dimensional sort of ant farm that we live on, will be a great endeavor for most people. Like I said, most people would be happy because they'll be what? Engaged, busy, and people are going to want to have answers. The dystopian kind of tales, like say The Giver. Remember The Giver with Jeff Bridges, and The Giver was when people reached a certain age, they'd be sent off on a great journey. Well, that was really euthanasia, so it's a circular logic, and that's just not where we're headed. The third dimension won't be what you have here today. Your perception won't be that. So perceptions are going to change. Frequencies will change. This whole nefarious thing of nukes, weather wars, advanced technology for nefarious purposes, a great army of robots, AI, and all that being predatory, the idea of the elimination of man as a virus, all that will dry up, and you'll go, where did that go? Where did that go? And you will begin to see it today. As far as the United States leading the world into a kind of this zone, what it has to do with is what we might call evolution, but change. The reason it's here with Trump is that Trump was selected to bring that change, and he was the man to do it. And the change is also an awareness. The change is also, we'll find, in physics. But in terms of the old world, Klingon, recycle the slaves. They're just dumb, they're just dumb, stupid things anyway. You can go ahead and kill them all. Have a world war, take all their money. They're our slaves. That's going to go completely bye-bye because it won't matter how much money you have or don't have. You can be poor and be rich, and you can be rich and be poor. It doesn't matter. That's all going to the wayside. That's the old paradigm. That's got nothing to do with where we're headed. So those are, some of the ideas. In terms of this tariff thing, well, that's what got me thinking about all this and or processing. But the idea of a world of free trade without barriers, without tariffs, it could not be done without good communication, and then further communication, further development, further further innovation will need it's like there'll be an energy revolution before there's anything. And the United States has been selected to be the big provider of energy. So the people here will benefit, and I believe that we'll have much more freedom of choice in whatever they want to do. They'll understand that it's not about the job, it's not about the family, it's not about your kids, not about your parents. It's about you. It's about me. And it's about where we're going. And I think that is a much better consciousness to be in because it makes me feel like a little kid excited about where we're heading. Where are we going, Dad? I've never been here before. This is cool. Wow. Look at that tree. Look at that sunset. Look at what the ocean looks. Look at those lights. What's going on? No need to be afraid. Well, we give God the glory, don't we? Because we didn't, right? Because we're just like, God is just creating this whole thing for us to be in. So he can receive gratitude, worship, songs, devotion, and not this fake Jesus that we talked about yesterday, this crowdfunding Jesus thing. I don't know why that irks me, but it just really, it irks me in the same way that something like a Calvary Chapel irks me. I just see the whole Jesus business as fakery at this point. And but I do believe if Jesus is real, then Jesus would emerge in whatever form. Jesus, a frequency that seems to be, you say, well, Christ consciousness. Yes. You mean advanced consciousness? Leading us to a higher form of, and IQs will be multiplied exponentially because the more that you're connected to that source, the more exponential your brain. They say, well, we only use about 10%. Right. Well, what's the other percentage there for? It's for this next step. You'll be using all of it. And, maybe, I think of the brain of birds. You bird brain. I see them every morning around here. I realize you all have one brain. You're all connected to each other. And I'm connected to you. And we're talking. And the intelligence they have is the shared intelligence between them, which makes them 1,000,000 times more intelligent than their little brain would be able to handle, because all the brains are the one brain, if you know what I mean. They're all, everyone, all the birds have the total brain, which is infinite knowledge. You ever thought at times the animals seem to know more than us? It's because they have this connection with consciousness around, to the trees, to the earth, to the other animals. There's this knowing. And I don't know if I'm going to put this up. It almost seems evil. But these are some of the things I'm noticing in terms of changes that are positive And look at the whole revolution of health with Bobby Kennedy. Look at the Doge and cleaning up trillions of dollars of waste. And the reason that people are mad and angry and saying that Trump has destroyed the whole economy and all that other stuff, but that's going to blow up in their face. Their slush funds have been taken away. Daddy took their allowance away. How do you think the guy that makes $150,000 a year winds up with, a beach house in Maui, in an airplane? It's not going to happen unless he's taking. So they're very angry. And could they wage a war against Trump? And they make a mistake. It's not Trump. It's the frequency has changed in the earth. It's changed. I told you when it changed. I can't remember the date, but it did. And so now the impossible is now possible. So even though the impossible for me is I'm going to die, but I'm going to live. It'll just be like going to bed and getting up the next day in whatever form is necessary. The forms will change, but the me will not. You will not. And with that, I'm going to go because, in the short term, do I think there'll be strife? Will there be objection? Will there be yelling and screaming over what Trump is doing? I think so. I think, is he perfect? No, he's just a man. He's not the savior. But he's doing a thing that no other man has done. And it's a history-making thing that he's doing that no other man has done or nor could do. So he was the right man. But it was going to happen anyway. Whether it's this Trump or another Trump, it was going to happen anyway. You knew it was. And shalom. I'll see you next time.
There goes